If you're not already subscribed to this YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button now, along with the bell icon so you can be notified whenever a new video is posted. And if you're already subscribed, check and make sure that YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you. And of course, be sure to give the video a like as well as share it on your social media. The white supremacists hate that. And now, the Sunday address. Oh yeah, they're right back at it again. Unless you're a brain-dead vegetable or a conservative or a shea butter feminist, you already know that the phony outrage of Michael Jackson and Bill Cosby was nothing more than a media distraction smokescreen meant to get attention off of the white male executives who were predating on women and other power brokers who were getting pointed out during the Me Too era. Every time Harvey Weinstein was set to make a courtroom appearance on cue, we would suddenly be inundated with accusations against black male celebrities, like R. Kelly, such as Bill Cosby, and eventually, in the ultimate absurdity, we saw a phony documentary, quote-unquote, put out by HBO against Michael Jackson, who had been dead for almost a decade at that point. This is how desperate they were to try to change the headlines to make sure they replaced white faces with black ones. And this alleged Michael Jackson documentary, quote-unquote, had two males, I dare not call them men, making accusations with absolutely no proof and predictably demanding money from the Jackson estate. So that's how you know they were doing it based on principle. There was no reason to put this out at all, except to get people talking about something other than Harvey Weinstein and other white male executives. Point blank. And that's very important to the white men who run the white media, because as long as everyone's talking about them, then that becomes a process that feeds on itself. That's what they realized. All these white males who were being pointed out, that's why they were being forced to resign. They were being fired, humiliated, scandalized. Like, oh no, we can't have that. So since we still control this media, we're going to go ahead and change the headlines. And so we had these same white male media executives putting out Surviving R. Kelly, We Need to Talk About Cosby, and other professional propaganda distraction campaigns. These same white media figures totally ignored the fact that people like Roman Polanski, who raped and sodomized a child, not only do Hollywood stars still appear in his movies to this day, but the Oscars gave this child rapist an Academy Award, and they even sent Harrison Ford himself to personally hand Polanski his Oscar at an undisclosed location. That's how far they were willing to go to honor somebody who they knew had raped and sodomized a child. They did this even though it's been proven that he's guilty. He doesn't deny it, and nobody questions it. He's a confirmed child rapist, and he's been on the loose for decades, but he's treated as if he's just a regular filmmaker. Roman Polanski's movies like Chinatown and Rosemary's Baby are still regularly considered highly regarded classics. None of Roman Polanski's movies have been removed from any studio's film libraries. They still get regularly shown on television and cable. You can still see them on all the streaming sites, and there's never been any sort of cancel campaign put together against him. There's not been any sort of pressure put on Jack Nicholson or any other stars who have been in his movies to denounce him. Roman Polanski's crimes have been memory holed, and he's freely allowed to make money off of his past movies. Nobody's trying to sit here and try to figure out how do we scandalize him out of existence. You know, like they got Hannibal Buress to try that crap against Bill Cosby. That's how determined the dominant society is to make sure that if you're white, then you're never considered to be untouchable. You don't see Bill Maher or any of these other so-called comedians making it a point to bring up Roman Polanski every chance they get. They would never do that. That's because many of these people are engaged in the same behavior themselves. This is how determined they are to make sure that everybody is programmed and conditioned that if you're black, well, any sort of accusation made against you is a permanent dark stain on your reputation. But as long as you're not black, well, it'll go ahead and circulate for a while and then it's allowed to be mercifully forgotten. And if you want the purest proof that attacking and demonizing black men is a cottage industry of grifters, the same goofs who made Leaving Neverland are making, get this, Leaving Neverland 2. Now, I know what you're thinking. These guys had absolutely no actual evidence for their first so-called documentary. It was just them saying stuff. So what are they going to say this time around? Well, believe it or not, they actually have even less to say this time around if that was possible. Even HBO, who put out the first so-called Leaving Neverland, they decided not to be part of this one. At least you don't see their names on it. And why is that? Well, as I've explained, the Me Too era is over. Making accusations at these white male media executives isn't the magnet for scandal that it had been for a few years. White male executives aren't getting dragged, so there's no need for them to be out here hyper-aggressively pushing the propaganda because they no longer need to. And that's the reason why the scandal merchants who tried to make bank off of defaming Michael Jackson's memory have been predictably reduced to this. Now, instead of them trying to make accusations against Michael Jackson, they're accusing Michael Jackson's fans of victimizing them. And I think we can all just count the seconds before they decide to start saying that Michael Jackson's responsible for this somehow, so they have to sue the Jackson estate because Michael Jackson sent these throngs of harassers from beyond the grave, no doubt. At last, they've come full circle. This is pathetically trying to make another nothing burger into something. This is what happens when you run out of rumors, gossip, and empty accusations to make about Michael Jackson, but you don't have anything else you can market because your hit piece fell flat. The money that you thought you were going to get didn't happen. All you have to market, if it can be called that, is the fact that everyone remembers you had about 5 seconds of fame. You didn't even get your full 15 minutes, but you had about 5 minutes of fame with a bunch of drone shots of Michael Jackson's home and a whole bunch of narration of unsubstantiated gibberish. So they shot their quiver, it didn't become the payday they had hoped for, and since they can't claim any new empty accusations against Michael Jackson, well, now they're saying, well, Michael Jackson's fans are attacking us, so we got another documentary. Remember the last one? Everybody's already forgotten. Now let's be naive. Even without HBO officially producing and putting this dreck out there, the white media is going to publicize it anyway. And that's because demonizing black people, keeping up the steady drumbeat of black people bad, that's the white media's stock and trade. They understand that that's a crucial purpose that they serve under white supremacy. Now, if Michael Jackson had been white and not merely bleaching his skin, then whenever these documentaries and accusations were made, you would have people out there with these well-funded efforts to debunk these things and show that none of this stuff holds up. Here's the actual evidence. We're going to set the record straight. You would think that would be the case, especially with Sony and others who happen to be making money off of Michael Jackson's memory and off of his music. You'd think that they would be doing that, but they're not. Because as far as they're concerned, under white supremacy, they get to have it both ways. They get to have Michael Jackson being simultaneously dragged through the mud posthumously so they can feel as if they're getting revenge on him somehow. And at the same time, they're making money off the fact that the vast majority of people out there don't fall for all that defamatory crap that was said about him. You see, this is the reason why I make it a point to try to avoid any sort of white media to the best of my ability. I don't have a favorite TV show or movies or whatever. And let me be clear, I know that a lot of you do watch TV shows and movies and you got your favorite streaming shows. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with you for doing so. I'm telling you the reason that I don't watch them. And why, whenever you guys ask me, hey, Professor Truth, what do you think about Game of Thrones or this or that other show or series or movies? You want to know why it is that I don't respond? It's because I disconnected from that particular matrix a long time ago. Call me an extremist, but the reality is, as Paul Mooney said, does everything have to be about race? Yes, everything. I simply cannot separate the open racial hostility of the people behind these white media outlets from the rest of the content that they put out. They go out of their way to do this mess, and they only do it against us. They don't do it against anybody else. They don't do these kind of non-stop over and over again defamation campaigns against Hispanic celebrities or Asian ones, definitely not Jewish celebrities, not people who are Muslim celebrities. They single out black people for it. They do that stuff relentlessly because that's part of social programming. That's how you show the society this is what you're supposed to believe about these people. Hannibal Buress said it himself. He said, well, whenever people talk about Cosby, I want to make it awkward for them to do so. That's the reason that they do it. It doesn't have to be true. It just has to be that they say it over and over and over again, because the reality is most people happen to be sheep. Most people believe whatever it is that they hear. They turn their brains off because that's the easiest way to live. It's not the right way, but it's the easiest way, and that's what most people go with. And that's the reason why you'll have people who will be infesting the comment section saying, well, it's not like they just put this out and nothing else. They put out more than just anti-black propaganda. You know, the problem is that the bastards shouldn't be doing it at all. Of course, they're not going to be honest about their journalism or talk about the Roman Polanskis and the decades-long rumors about Woody Allen and others. And yes, it is true that these are the same white media companies who produce the movies that the Polanskis and the Allens and the Weinsteins have made. But it's also true that these are the same white media companies who put Bill Cosby's shows on their networks. And they put out Michael Jackson's music too. So, as always, under white supremacy, it's not about green, it's about black and white. As I've said for over 15 years, the white media is not in the business of entertainment. They're in the business of mind control. This is the way that I look at the white media because this is who and what they are. I hate all that mess. Because whenever you subscribe to HBO so you can watch Game of Thrones, just keep in mind they use your subscription fees in order to push anti-black propaganda like Leaving Neverland. When you subscribe to Showtime, they use your subscription fees to make crap like that anti-Cosby hit piece. That's the game that they're playing. They're getting you to fuel the very anti-black propaganda that they attack you with. That's a reality. And while it is true that we have to focus on establishing genuine black media outlets, it's also true that we need more than just entertainment and sports fare. We also need genuine black media outlets in order to push and promote the truth. We have to counter-program against all of this white media anti-black propaganda and hysteria that they push. And don't you dare let any bootlick, any clown or shill, many of them happen to be white media sock puppet accounts, try to tell you, well, you know, black folks ain't perfect now. Well, we're certainly better than Harvey Weinstein, certainly better than Roman Polanski. You can't accuse Bill Cosby of anything like that. Harvey Weinstein was actually convicted of rape, Bill Cosby wasn't. And Bill Cosby's phony conviction was overturned, something that Harvey Weinstein probably won't be able to say, at least for a little while at least. And yet the man who was the very reason that the whole Me Too era kicked off, for some strange reason after he was convicted, we haven't had an orgy of Harvey Weinstein documentaries come down the pike. Shouldn't there be a tsunami of pieces about the man? All of these stories talking about the rise and fall of Harvey Weinstein, just an endless parade of it. Shouldn't somebody have won an Oscar for that? Ronan Farrow, the guy who actually cracked the Me Too story over various white media outlets' refusal to run it, do you know that he actually won a Pulitzer? But they say it was a Pulitzer for public service. Yeah, as far as they were concerned, we don't want to actually sit here and say this is investigative work. It's public service, don't you know? And yet this man has not been showered with all kinds of money and resources and offers about his next work and what's he doing next and how do we get this guy a platform. No, as far as they're concerned, we'll go ahead and give him a Pulitzer very quietly, but we're not going to be trying to find a way to make this habit forming. We don't want to encourage people to be going after the wrong color individuals. That's the reason why we haven't been seeing any sort of documentaries about Danny Masterson, even though this guy is part of Scientology. I mean, you would think that that kind of connection would beg for a whole bunch of documentaries. You would have all of these people who have been involved with Scientology. People would be pointing the finger at Tom Cruise and say, hey, wasn't he and John Travolta part of that whole Scientology thing? But they're not doing that. As far as they're concerned, whoops, wrong color. Let this one fall down the memory hole too. And unlike Bill Cosby, Danny Masterson was actually convicted of raping not one, but raping 2 women. Not only are the scumbags behind Leaving Neverland not interested in that, but HBO isn't interested in it either. Yeah, there is a clear, blatant, open, hands-off policy when it comes to certain celebrities. And what determines whether they go after you or not? The color of your skin. That's the way that it works under the white media. Now, Donald Trump's been talking about how the current standard for defamation case law and the current defamation laws themselves need to be changed so as to make it easier to go after these companies. And while we already understand that Donald Trump wants to do that for his own ends, well, I have to say, as much as the white media keeps pulling stunts like this, who knows? Maybe there's more than a little merit to the Orange Man's suggestion. So that's the reason why, even though HBO is not putting out Leaving Neverland 2, they're not really worried about it. There'll be some more scumbags who come along before long, trying to find a way to go ahead and make some more stuff about P. Diddy. And when that one runs dry, they'll see if there's any accusations they can bring against Kanye West, or against Chris Brown, or against whomever. Because under white supremacy, when it comes to defaming black people, it doesn't have to be true. It's not about truth. All it has to be is about a black person. Attacking black people is the American pastime. That's what America's built on and based upon. It's a guilty pleasure for this sick society that never grows old. And that's the reason why, no matter how much the well has come up dry already, never mind the fact that there's no real audience for these propaganda pieces, no matter what, Michael Jackson's been dead since forever, they don't care. They just love attacking black people simply because. And while the rest of us roll our eyes at yet another empty attempt to flog a dead horse, to make accusations with absolutely no evidence, the white media doesn't care. As far as the white media is concerned, they are not leaving Neverland. Good evening, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. David Williams, Josiah Starr, Mark Brown, Larry May, and James Green. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.